everybody. Nice to see you. Can everyone hear right now okay? Okay. Somebody say no? Okay, we're all good. Good. All right, well, happy Valentine's Day week. Yeah. Wednesday, is that it?
Happy Valentine's Day to you.
Thank you. Bless you. All right, so let us start with prayer. Let us start with our affirmation, if we can get that up on the screen. All right, shall we? 3 times. Jesus Christ is now here, raising me to his super consciousness. I realize that I am the image and likeness of God, the person through which divine mind flashes its perfection into his expression. Jesus Christ is now here, raising me to his super consciousness. I realize that I am the image and likeness of God, the person through which divine mind flashes its perfection into his expression. Jesus Christ is now here, raising me to his super consciousness. I realize that I am the image and likeness of God, the person through which divine mind flashes its perfection into his expression. And so from that point of consciousness, that Christ consciousness, we refer to it as the I am consciousness. We give thanks for all the joy and the enthusiasm and the participation in this spiritual community. And we bring forth peace that is permeating all over the globe. We call forth sustainability throughout our whole world so that all people have enough. We pray for the children of the world. May they have all their needs met. May they be loved, be loving, feel loved, and have the potential to reach their divine potential. And we come here to remind one another that we're made in the image and likeness of God. And so today we're going to use the imagination faculty to learn more about how we can manifest exactly what we want. And so for all the teachings of Jesus the Christ, we say thank you, God. Thank you, Spirit. Amen.
Into
Let us say our vision together. A world powerfully transformed through the growing movement of shared spiritual awakening. And our mission? In love and community, we nurture and inspire spiritual growth by modeling and teaching universal spiritual principles. And our values? Welcoming, diverse, prayerful, transformational, abundant, joyful, and empowering. And our statement of being? God is all, both invisible and visible. One presence, one mind, one power is all. This one that is all is perfect life, perfect love, and perfect substance. I am the individualized expression of God. I am one with this perfect life, perfect love, and perfect substance.
Good morning. So, I thought we were starting with the other song.
No.
Yeah. That's okay. I had it worked out for me to vamp to that song. Okay. So the two songs we're doing today are about dreams. And one of the lines I love, first of all, we talk about the impossible, and lots of dreams we think are impossible. But as you say, at Unity, you manifest closer. So dreams are not impossible. And there's a line in this song about you're breathing, so it's not too late. And there's people in this room that have helped me reach those dreams. Too, I don't see Stormy and Susan have supported me so much, moving towards my dream of singing. And Hector and Donna Fraley and Fran and Dan and Marcia, who am I forgetting? Barry and Reverend Arch bringing me in here every month. So it's you're breathing, it's not too late.
Passing you by while you're standing still. You wanna grab your share of it, wondering if you ever will. Looking back at what you see, time shall friend and not your enemy. It's not a question of your age. You're breathing, so it's not too late. There's no expiration date, and we're talking dreams. Sometimes they're elusive, sometimes they hide from you. Sometimes so much time goes by, you'd swear they never will come true. A dream is just a seed you plant, then you wait for it to grow. You've been waiting patiently Open up that old chest, sprinkle some fairy dust. There's no time like the present to wake that sleeping beauty up. It's not a question of your age, you're breathing so it's not too late. There's no expiration date when you're talking dreams. You're talking dreams. We're talking dreams.
Thank you, Tony. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to Unity Spiritual Center. My name is Juanita Loomis, and it's my pleasure to serve as your platform assistant today. Thank you for joining us. Unity Spiritual Center is our spiritual home where we know we love and serve God through our prayer, our meditation, our Sunday celebrations, our classes, and you, our community. We appreciate the talents of our music team. Pretty good, aren't they? Now please join us in singing our joy song, and the words are on the screen.
Everybody knows this one, so sing along. I'm choosing heaven today. I'm choosing heaven today. I am walking the road of heaven right now, singing I'm choosing heaven today. I'm choosing love today. I'm choosing love today. I am walking the road of love right now, singing I'm choosing love today. I'm choosing joy today. I'm choosing joy today. I am walking the road of joy right now, singing I'm choosing joy today. I'm choosing peace today. I'm choosing peace today. I am walking the road of peace right now, singing I'm choosing peace today. Singing I'm choosing peace today.
So if this is your first time with us, welcome to Unity. We're glad you're here, and we appreciate you wearing your name tag like we all do, so you need to know your name. Otherwise, I forget all that stuff. I'm not saying the name. If you would like a guest packet, it looks something like this. And you don't have one, we'll stop by the Welcome Center desk right outside of the sanctuary after the service, and it's right straight through those doors. Our Welcome Center volunteers are happy to answer your questions and give you the information about unity. Now, you are never alone on the road to life, and you are not definitely alone here. There will be more time to greet each other after the service and enjoy the refreshments right in our community room, across the lobby, and please, everyone, make an effort to talk with someone you do not already know. And it is time for our community greeting. That's it. That means vitamin H, and we are a hugging community. And if you prefer to not hug, just put out your hand and we'll give you a welcome handshake. And after just a couple of minutes, you will hear music or you'll hear me dinging that bell, and that means please go back to your seat. Let's go. Anybody want to hear a joke this morning? Yeah. Okay. Again? Boy, I thought I was doing so good. Did that help? Yes. All right. You want to start from the beginning of the service? No. Six-year-old Angie and her 4-year-old brother Joel were sitting together in church. Joel giggled and he sang and he talked out loud. Finally, his big sister, she just had about enough of that. So she says, "You're not supposed to talk out loud in church." "Why?" "Who's going to stop me?" Joel asked. Angie pointed to the back of the church and she said, "See those men standing back there? They're the hushers." That sounds like you heard that one, but that anyway. So now the prayer chaplain will read the daily word and the spiritual power of the month, and will bless the prayer box.
Good morning. Good morning. Would all the chaplains that are in service today please stand? If you would like prayer with a prayer chaplain, these chaplains will be in the sanctuary after service right up here. If you prefer more privacy, we have prayer rooms on either side of our sanctuary. We're honored to be in service today. Thank you, chaplains. From the Daily Word, which you can order online or when our bookstore is open, purchase in the bookstore, comes our reading of the day. From the scripture of Isaiah, "I am about to do a new thing. Now it springs forth. Do you not perceive it? I will make a way in the wilderness and rivers in the desert." I have learned through experience that change is an essential element of my spiritual journey. I have also learned that I have within me all the guidance I need to make the choices that will most effectively move me forward. Change is simply the consequence of choice. I do not need to resist it, nor do I need to seek it out forcefully. I relax and trust the guidance of Spirit within to show me the changes that are mine to make, and to lead me away from the changes that are not needed on my path. If former negative ways of thinking reappear, I turn within to step forward boldly in faith. I rely on the guidance of Spirit to lead me through necessary changes. And together, I rely on the guidance of Spirit to lead me through necessary changes. The spiritual power of the month of February is imagination. The corresponding color is light blue. The center of imagination is located between the eyes. Imagination is the ability to imagine, picture, conceptualize, envision, and dream. Imagination is represented by Anna and the disciple Bartholomew, also known as Nathaniel. Please join me in saying the affirmation.
Jesus Christ is now here, raising me to his consciousness of divine imagination, and I see spiritual perfection everywhere.
Divine Spirit, join us all here together as we unite, knowing that we are all one. We see all of those names in the prayer box and those who put the names in the prayer box, using the power of imagination to envision the requests that they've made, knowing that they are complete in their divine self. Through this, we know and we praise you and give you thanks. Amen.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. My name is Fran Tugas, and my moment of truth actually started about 4 years ago when Mary and I got really lucky and walked up to Unity of the Villages for the first time. I've been searching for a church home on and off since I was 19 years old, mostly off. When we walked up to the doors of Unity and were greeted with the smiles from Tom Trefane and Jerry Latham, it just was amazing. And then we walked in the doors and got all the smiles from the people that were there and all the words of acceptance and the hugs and the handshakes. It really, really hit me. And then the question came to my mind, can this be really true? Because it never happened in any of the churches that I had tried before. And it was true then, and it is true today. So that's a blessing. The upbeat music that was sung with the love and joy just came through and just grabbed hold of me. And you all became the family that I didn't know I was looking for. Ever since that day, with your acceptance and your encouragement, I've tried to do what I could to help myself on my path. And it started out small. We moved tables and chairs around in the old place to get the different programs that we had going and get them all set up. And then I became a member of the building committee and later a member of the dome committee. And then we started a men's club with John Busta, which was great because I became part of that. I was part of the choir for a while. And I was even kind of, we used to have talent shows, if everybody remembers. I was even talked into participating in one of those. This church helps me grow spiritually, and it helps me to raise my vibration through a lot of the classes and book studies that I've been involved in through the church and the members of the church. Some of those, we all started out with Unity Basics, which Marge gave us. And then we had the book study on the E-Basics and Eye of the Storm, the 4 Agreements, and finding yourself in transition. And then the one that we're doing right now, which is loving, excuse me, loving what is. And I realized that the learning process will continue through this community because I'll have choices in other classes that will help me along my way. I thought it was luck that brought me to Unity, but it wasn't. I was spiritually led here. Divine order brought me to Unity, and this has allowed me to joyfully give my time and talent for certain things like the construction end of getting this place ready and building the IT platforms and the video platforms and getting the place ready so we could transition from our old home to this home, our spiritual home. And I look forward to more opportunities to continue that kind of growth through you. Because all of this has given me the joy of accomplishment, and it's helped me along my spiritual path. You are my spiritual family. Divine order brought me to Unity, but you showed me who I am through Unity, and you showed me that I am. Thank you.
Wow. And this song is called In the Silence. As we go into our meditation time, this is the meditation song I chose. It is a new song for our congregation, but I think you'll find the words are apropos for when we meditate and we get quiet. I know that sometimes when I pray, I'm telling God what's up. He already knows. And I need to take time and just be quiet and be in the silence and listen for the answers. In the silence there is peace. In the silence there is unspoken joy. In the silence there's release. From a world filled with chaos and noise, I will wait to these precious moments when I hear all that could never be said, and right here in this holy silence I find God, I find myself. In the silence I find peace. In the silence there is unspoken joy. In the silence there's release. From a world filled with chaos and noise, I awake to this precious moment when I hear all that could never be said, and I wait in this holy silence I find God, I find God, I find myself.
And now as we prepare for meditation, you might want to take a few big 3-part breaths, filling first your belly, then your lower lungs, then your upper lungs. You might want to do that now. Shall we do one joint cough? And we're happy to have children here, so never a problem when there's noise during meditation. We just meditate right on through it. So let us take a couple deep breaths. We appreciate the examples we are witnessing of embracing differences of opinions as the Christ Spirit continues to awaken at deeper levels in each of us. We grow in curiosity. We agree and disagree in love as we spiritually mature individually and collectively. We practice keeping our minds and our hearts on God. Thank you, Spirit, for our transformation. Amen.
So this morning, I was confused, which is not hard to do. I thought we were doing Impossible Dream first. And Hector said, you should say something before this song. So I did it a little bit, but I was confused. But we talked about dreams today, and I don't want to take too much time, but dreams. When I was a teenager, I wanted music. I wanted to do music. And I played guitar and I played trumpet, and I was singing in the church choir. I still wasn't bold enough to go out front, and I was singing in the church choir, and this girl next to me, beautiful, Susan Fulenkamp, blonde, class president, head cheerleader, homecoming queen. We're singing, and we finish the song, and she turns to me and says, you sound like a horse. She took my dream away then. It took me 30 years to get it back, but I have. And that last song talks about, you're still breathing, it's not too late. Dream when you're feeling blue. Dream and they may come true. Things never are as bad as they seem. So dream, dream, dream. To dream.
that my heart will lie peaceful and calm when I'm laid to my rest. And the world will be better for this, that one man stood and covered with scars, still strove with his last ounce of courage to reach the unreachable star, with his last ounce of courage to dream impossible dreams. Still strong with his last ounce of courage to reach the unreachable
And once again, working with the maestro there. Well, we're certainly happy, Tony, that you didn't give up on your dream, that's for sure. Thank you for anybody that has helped in this church in the last 2 weeks, and I would like you to stand if you have done anything in the last 2 weeks here so we can recognize you and thank you. Reverend Anne Marie, oops. I'll put this on this side because this side of my hair is a wreck today, so I thought, so far it hasn't worked. I want to thank Reverend Anne Marie for filling in last week. I really appreciate it. And next week we have a short annual meeting. We only cover what's on the announcement that went out, so it will be short. It starts at 11:45. And that first song today was written by Sue Riley, and 3 New Thought musicians that are hot musicians are coming here April 13th. Next week we're going to have postcards so everybody can invite their friends and fill the place. It's going to be an awesome concert. It's called Paulapalooza and Posi-Palooza, thank you. And what it is one person sings a song, and then whatever that song ends with, another musician just picks up and sings another song. So it's really, really fun, and all 3 of them are entertaining. When you get the postcard, you'll be able to YouTube a few of them, and you'll want to come, so we appreciate that. And then everybody should have gotten a Lenten booklet, so these are good for your spiritual readings in the morning. I think that's about it. All right. So starting with a reading from James, chapter 1, verses 2 and 3. My brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of any kind, consider it nothing but joy, because you know that the testing of your faith produces endurance. And let endurance have its full effect, so that you may be mature and complete, lacking in nothing. If any of you is lacking in wisdom, ask God, who gives so generously and ungrudgingly, and it will be given unto you. But ask in faith, never doubting. For the one who doubts is like a wave of the sea, driven and tossed by the wind. For the doubter, being double-minded and unstable in every way, must not expect to receive anything from the God force. It didn't say God force, I put that in. So that was faith, and that was January, and that was the faculty or the power that we studied in January. We had 5 weeks of that power that we kept affirming. And now we're in the power of imagination. That is the same chakra as the power of faith. And faith and imagination work together, so we study them together. Imagination is one of the easiest powers to understand because we've been using it since we were probably 1 or 2, and I think these days when the kids come in at 6 weeks or 2 months, they pretty much have command of their parents and what they want. You can tell them. So each of us can recall a few things that we have imagined and manifested in our lives. It's said that the power of imagination is the power that grants us true freedom. Remember in Romans 12:2, it says, "Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, so that you may discern what is the will of God, what is good and acceptable and perfect." So sometimes we have a desire in our soul, oftentimes an intense desire, which activates the use of imagination. And it can be anything and everything prompting our expansion. It could be that we want to be more God-realized. It could be we want to maybe be a better friend. It could be maybe we want to be a better or more helpful spouse. It could be we want a life partner. Most people don't want life partners. They say they just want somebody to go out to eat with. It could be we want a different home. It could be we want to be more tech savvy. It could be we want to be more in touch with our grandkids. Of course, if we're more tech savvy, we would be more in touch with our grandkids. It could be we want to be more patient or kind or forgiving. We might want to be a better golfer or a pickleball player. We might want to get less annoyed at a certain friend who continues to go through their ills when we're with them or on the telephone. It could be that we are working on a healing and we want to heal ourselves. You name it. So imagination starts with an intense desire. That's when imagination really gets activated. And faith is one of the requirements of imagination. So we have to actually firmly believe that we can achieve this. It has to be firmly established in our minds that indeed what we command from our I am consciousness, from our Christ consciousness, will indeed come into being. So that gets back to, when we first listen to the divine in meditation or prayer, then we have more of, we're doing not exactly our will, our ego will, but God's will. And then when we get the download of what we ought to be doing, and then we have the enthusiasm or the desire, that's when we have imagination and faith activated. So imagination, the true power of imagination, to truly access it, has a few requirements. First of all, it does demand a focused mind. This is where our power lies. We pay attention to what we want rather than what appears. That's the key. Neville Goddard writes, "The desire which realizes itself is always a desire upon which attention is exclusively concentrated. For an idea is endowed with power only in proportion to the degree our attention is fixed on it." So the power of our attention, of our focused attention, is our inner force. And when we deliberately focus our attention on the feeling of our desire and see it fulfilled until that feeling crowds out all other ideas in our consciousness, this is the altitude of change. It means we are taking the high road here. So we believe, we focus, we feel it as if it is already accomplished. So, the classic example is Joseph, who was sold into slavery. And he could have had a bad attitude. He could have had a victim consciousness for his whole life. But his answer was always, God meant it for good. And then Jacob, Joseph's father, he worked years for his future father-in-law, Laban, for Rachel. And even though his father-in-law promised him that he would get a good lot of animals, right before he was ready to turn those over, he moved the whole lot of animals 3 days' drive away, which was a dirty trick. Now Jacob didn't spend his imagination lamenting the poor behavior of Laban. He simply received a solution from divine mind. He took rods of hazel, poplar, and chestnut trees. He stripped them so that they were striped and speckled, like the animals that Laban took on a 3 days drive away. He then sets those rods along the gutters of the watering troughs so that the flocks would perceive when they came to drink. Then when the animals gave birth, their kids and their calves were all spotted and speckled. So Jacob ends up with a huge flock despite Laban's trickery. Now the metaphysics of the story is clear. The animals perceive when they are imagined at the drinking of the water troughs each day. It causes them to conceive and have faith in such a manner that they're giving birth, they're manifesting offspring who they perceive looks like what's up there on the water troughs. So imagination is not about getting caught up in what is not or how it's going to happen. Anybody get hooked on how it's going to happen? Oh gosh, you gotta let that go. Yeah. It's about totally feeling the feeling that you're already in the primary desire of your heart. It's always taking the high road or the altitude of change. Now there's a great story here, which is just like perfect. It's a stellar story for this point. So it's in the spring of 1943, and there's a drafted soldier in a large army camp base in Louisiana, and he's had enough of the army. But he wants to get out, but he still wants to be honorably discharged. So the only way he can do this is, of course, to apply for discharge. So he fills out the application, and a couple of hours later it comes back, and it says rejected. So he's convinced he can't appeal this to a higher authority in the military. So he turns to his own consciousness and he decides to use the law of assumption. The soldier realizes that his consciousness was the only reality, that his particular state of consciousness determined the events he would encounter. That's being firmament in faith. That night, in the interval between getting into bed and falling asleep, so notice, first detail is you can't be a dragon and ready to fall asleep as soon as you get into bed. That night, in the interval between getting into bed and falling asleep, he concentrated on consciously using the law of assumption. In his imagination, he felt himself to be in his own apartment in New York City. He visualized his apartment. In his mind's eye, he saw his apartment, mentally picturing each one of the familiar rooms with all the furnishings, vividly real in detail. With this picture clearly visualized and lying flat on his back, he was completely relaxed. In this way, he induced a state bordering on sleep at the same time, key point, retaining control of the direction of his attention. When his body was completely immobilized, he assumed he was in his own bed. Didn't that feel better than the army cot? How many of you have been in the army cots? Okay, that's better. And he just felt like he was then rising from his bed. He walked through the rooms in his apartments. He touched various pieces of furnishings. He actually went to the window and he put his hand on the sill and he looked outside the opposite apartment, and he saw the detail in the pavement, the railings, the bushes on the opposite side of the street. Then he returned to his bed in his mind, and he felt himself drifting into sleep. He knew that it was important, a successful use of the law, that at the actual point he was falling asleep, his consciousness was filled with the assumption that he was already where he needed to be. All that he did in his imagination, it was based on the assumption that he was no longer in the army. Night after night, the soldier enacted this drama. Night after night, in his imagination, he saw himself honorably discharged, back in his own apartment, familiar surroundings, and asleep in his own bed. This continued for 8 consecutive nights. So not 2 years, not 3 years, not 30 years, 8 consecutive nights. For 8 days, his objective experience continued to be the direct opposite of his subjective experience and consciousness each night, going to sleep. On the 9th day, something caught his attention. He was asleep. He assumed he was in his own bed. He felt like he was lying there. He rose from the, oops, I'm sorry. I missed my page. Oops, here we go. Okay, so on the 9th day, through the battalion headquarters for the soldier, it came that he should fill out a new application for discharge. So he fills out the application. Within a couple hours, the colonel calls him in. And the colonel says, I see you want to get out of here. And he says, yes, I do. And the colonel says, well, I disagree totally. I have strong objections to approving this discharge, but I've decided to overlook them. Within a few hours, the application was approved, and the soldier, now a civilian, was on a train bound for home. Wow. Yeah. So this is a great story to just pick out all those details of what you want to manifest. And as true students, we know that all things are possible with the God force. And so, you know, as Tony sang in that first song by Sue Riley, you know, if you're still breathing, it's not too late. So maybe we have something that we've been putting off and not really believing we could achieve. Do we have the faith that we can achieve it, we can manifest it? And in this Lenten season, what could be our practice for the world? You know, after we finish that 9 o'clock prayer at night, you know, can we spend just 5 minutes, which is what I do, just grounding more light to the earth? Because the more light to the earth, the more peace. I saw when I was in North Carolina driving through those country roads, because it's 3.5 hours from the time you get off that 95 to where you get where my parents' house is. And so you go through all these little towns, little marquees on the churches. No God, no peace. Another one said that I thought was really creative. We're open between Christmas and Easter. So maybe we can spend 5 or 10 minutes for not only ourselves and what we want to manifest, but what do we want to manifest globally? You know, we saw a beautiful coming together with the opening of the Olympics. Wasn't that phenomenal? Yeah. So why can't we live in a world like that? And we know that all we have to do is actually focus our attention and our minds. And then another thing I wanted to remind you about, that we're in that 64-day season of the season of nonviolence, which is bookended by both the deaths of Mahatma Gandhi and Martin Luther King. So there's a great website. It's Association for Global New Thought. It's AGNT, but you can just Google Season for Nonviolence, and they have affirmations every day. So maybe we want to spend just 5 minutes in the morning after our prayer time to include that. So these are ways we can put our energy behind this shared spiritual awakening, that these are ways that we can really keep to that altitude of change and hold the higher consciousness no matter what is going on the outside. So we have a summary slide here. Do I need to just keep looking one at a time? Okay. So the summary slide is we have to first have the firmament of faith. We have to believe that we're actually part of the divine, and that we can manifest and we can make happen whatever it is we want to make happen. Second, we have to have a focused mind, and the only way that happens is to take time in the quiet and practice focusing, either in meditation or prayer or walking or sitting or however else you do it. We have to pay attention to what we want. not to what is, but what we want. And our power of attention is our force field. So, remember that Neville quote that says, whatever we want to manifest, it's proportionate to how much we spend our attention on. And nighttime is a perfect time, but it's going to take some discipline, isn't it? It's going to be maybe missing that last show or taping it or whatever. And, going to sleep, going to bed before you're actually going to fall asleep to go through this enactment of whatever it is you're trying to accomplish. Feel the desired already manifested. So this guy was actually sleeping in his bed in New York City. He wasn't in the army cot in Louisiana. He was in his bed in New York City. And we know time and space can collapse. Ignore this reality. And then the last one is persist. So do not be discouraged if it takes more than a day or a week. Sometimes things take longer. Okay, namaste. Is there anyone here for the very first time who would like to welcome you and offer you a prayer? Okay, welcome. Oh, perfect. Yes, you too. Oh, and you guys too. Wonderful. All right, well, let us bless them.
We love you, we bless you, we appreciate you, and we behold the Christ in you.
All right. And now it is our time to give to a world that is waking up, a world that works for all, doesn't depend on what great country you are, whether you're a first world country or a second world country or a third world country. It's a world that works for all. So let us affirm, divine love, ask me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive, and I am grateful. And I am so grateful. I am so grateful. When I write this check out for $100 every time I'm here, and I am so grateful to be where I can be and to be doing this and to know that as we awaken globally, it is happening. So God bless.
Wow, done. We see them multiplied many times over and going out and creating a world that is awakening.
So for the teachings of Jesus the Christ, we say thank you, God. Amen.